Welcome to Radio Vision Network, Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar. As you know from past visits, we always open up with the Ben Franklin Stamp Club. We use our gavel and we call our Ben Franklin Stamp Club to order. Ben Franklin, as this statue indicates, he was the first postmaster in the United States. And we have named the Ben Franklin Stamp Club after him to honor him in that position. Every week when you come to visit us, you're going to see that we have a notebook, and we want you to get a notebook as well. Get a 3-ring notebook, and we will send you the pages, and we will give you the stamps. So this is Michaela's book. This is my granddaughter Michaela. And all 4 of my grandchildren collect stamps, and that's what we do. It's a hobby for everybody of every age. Even a 3-year-old child can float stamps and put them in order. All the flowers together, all the people together, all the buildings together, and all the way up to grandmoms and grandpops. As a matter of fact, if you are a grandmom or grandpop, look in the attic and you probably have a bunch of very old stamps that you can give and talk about to your own grandchild. With St. Patty's Day right around the corner, here's one of our little leprechaun cards. People always send me St. Patty's Day cards because my husband is Irish, and we do a big deal of celebrating with a leprechaun hunt. And today at the Ben Franklin Stamp Club, we're going to celebrate the only Irish Catholic President of the United States. And his name is John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Fitzgerald is an old Irish name, and Kennedy is an old Irish name. Fitzgerald is his mother's maiden name, and he was the president when I was in high school, the 1960s. And because he was a president of the United States, he gets a stamp. And because he was such a very active president, he has several stamps that are made different times in his lifetime. And that is who we're celebrating today. Now, when President Kennedy lived in the White House, which is where all presidents live, he and his wife, Jacqueline, who is called the First Lady, and they had 2 children, John and Caroline. John was only 3 years old, and Caroline was about 5, and they lived in the White House with their father being president. And what was really unique is that every president who had children had animals in the White House. Some of the presidents had raccoons, some of them had a crow, another one had a possum, all different pets, as well as dogs and cats. Because remember, for the 4 years that the president is in his job as president, they have to live at the White House. So they wanted children to feel at home as much as they can in the White House. Caroline Kennedy, the daughter of President and Mrs. Kennedy, and her little brother, John, they had a pony. And the story goes that one day, Caroline and John talked to the Secret Service men, who are there to keep their father safe, into allowing them to bring the pony into the house. They brought the pony into the White House. They snuck it into the elevator, and they took it upstairs because the family lives on the 2nd floor in the living quarters. And the pony was in the house for quite a long time, and the servants all knew about it, and they were all laughing up a storm. But John F. Kennedy and his wife, Jacqueline, did not know that the kids had the pony up in the residence in their bedroom. So you can imagine how much fun that was. So Kennedy, of course, lived until his assassination in 1963. So we're celebrating that he was the first Irish Catholic. Up until that time, if you were Catholic, you could not run for President of the United States. You had to be a Protestant. You had to be usually of the Episcopalian faith, and that isn't a requirement for being the president, but it just seemed that more presidents of the United States have been Episcopalian than any other Protestant religion. And John F. Kennedy, he was the very first who is Irish Catholic. As a matter of fact, the Kennedy family still has family back in Ireland, and they have a very good relationship with the United States. Now, something I was a little amiss about, today I got in the mail a page of postage stamps. The postage stamps are ones you can print yourself. These at the bottom of this page are actually postage stamps, and I put them in my computer and I print how much money they would be, $3, $5, 79 cents, whatever the postage is according to how big the package is weighed, and on my computer charges me, and I pay through my credit card. So I'm concerned about these automatic postage stamps, because where is our stamp collecting going to come from? If you can buy them by the sheet and take them home and print them in your own printer, then the collectability of all these fabulous stamps are going to be at question. Now, as you've learned from past visits here to the Stamp Club, if you will send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, I will give you a whole big handful of stamps. And what you will do with the stamps is you will put them in a bowl of water. Now, don't put this many in because it takes a while, and you don't want to have too many wet too long. If they stay in the water too long, the coloring starts to melt off, and you don't want to do that. So maybe put 10 in at a time in your little bowl, and always put the stamp facing down. The ink on the stamp weighs more than the glue that holds it onto the corner of the envelope. And then when it's wet enough, you're going to just be able to peel the stamp right off. Then you're going to lay it on a paper plate until it's dry, and then you will put it in your stamp book. Of course, the page that I've showed you today is of all presidents, and every president gets a stamp, his picture on a stamp, at least once in his life. Sometimes, like John Fitzgerald Kennedy, he has 4 stamps that I have here. There may be more that I haven't found. And so, if you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, send it to Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar, and you just send it to our address, which is Cooper Street in Beverly, New Jersey. Zip code is 08010. And we will fill up a bunch of stamps for you, and we'll also give you a page, and you can send the page to work with your mom or dad and have them make you 20 copies. And then with those 20 copies, you're going to make yourself a book. Now, this is a book you will have for the rest of your life. I have mine from when I was a little girl. I was very fortunate that I have all of my stamps, all my father's stamps. So that's it for today here at the Ben Franklin Stamp Club. We'll hammer our mallet and stay tuned. We'll be back with another segment here at Radio Vision Network, Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar.
Love my style and I'm dancing tonight. My smile from pearly white side. Love myself, love myself, love my style. Pearly white, love your smile. From teens to grown-ups braces, they can change your life. All ages and all faces. Your smile from pearly white. Love yourself, love your style. Pearly white, love your smile.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back to Radio Vision Network and Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar. At our camp, which we have all summer long, 10 weeks of the summer, not only do we learn how to swim, We play with animals, we collect the eggs, we play with the ducks, geese, chickens, but we also cook every single day. Wednesday is our favorite day here at camp at Whitebriar because Wednesday we turn our 10 o'clock snack into Waffle Wednesday. We turn the Organic Green Cafe where we cook and we turn it into a waffle house. That means the kids crack the eggs, add the flour, add the sugar, make the waffles, put them on the waffle iron, and then they get to eat as many waffles as they want. So Waffle Wednesday is the favorite day of the week, and we tell the parents don't feed the kids too much in the morning for breakfast because by 10 o'clock they'll be eating waffles. But today, because it's so close to St. Patrick's Day, we are making Irish potato candies. And that's an easy thing for you kids to do. You need some cream cheese, some powdered sugar, and some coconut. So the cream cheese, which is really a milk product that is then coagulated into a cheese that is spreadable. Now I leave my cream cheese out the night before I make my Irish potato candies because I want the cream cheese soft. See how soft it is? I don't want it fresh out of the refrigerator because then it's too hard to mix. So I'm going to put a whole container into my bowl. And then I'm going to try to mush it a little bit. And all I'm doing is making it softer than it already is. Okay? Now, Irish potato candy was actually made from real potatoes about 150 years ago when the potato famine happened and people did not have any food to eat. It wasn't that the food didn't grow. The food grew, but in the British Isles, the English own all of the land. The Irish peasants worked the land, but the English owners owned the land, so they owned all the food. And they were distributing the food and selling it around the world, but the Irish were starving. So during the potato famine, they had only potatoes to eat. So sometimes they tried to trick them up for the children and make a treat. So they called them Irish potato candies. Ours nowadays in America have no mashed potatoes in them whatsoever. In those times, they did. And right now, ours is cream cheese. And we're going to pour in powdered sugar. Now remember when I was a little girl, I told you before that we always called powdered sugar 10x sugar. And I never understood why we called it 10x sugar. It was only last month that I realized that it's regular plain sugar, but it is ground 10 times to make it fluffy. And that's what we use for icing and frosting on cakes, and that's what we use for the Irish potato cakes, the Irish potato candies. So all I'm doing is mixing cream cheese and powdered sugar. Now sometimes you have to add just a little drop of water. Just makes the mixing a little easier. And you add a little bit of fluid at a time because you want to mix this just enough that you can't tell it's powdered sugar. So in early days when the Irish actually made it out of potatoes, I bet you they took mashed potatoes and add a little sugar to make it sweet like a candy. And then they added anything else they had, and in America we add coconut. Now you can buy a hard round coconut and drink the juice out of the coconut and then grind it up and make coconut flakes, or you can cheat like I do and buy coconut flakes at the store. Just dump it on in. And then we have to mix them all together so that you can't taste the coconut separate, you don't want to taste the cream cheese separate, and you don't want to taste the powdered sugar separate, but what you do want to do is taste them all together, mushed up. So this is going to take you a little bit of time, but it'll be well worth it. You want to get the potatoes just a little bit drier than this, because I'm going to roll them with my hands and I don't want to be too sticky. So we want them just rollable. Now, of course, this is going to come out since we've added powdered sugar, which is white, and we've added cream cheese, which is white, and we've added coconut, which is white. This is all going to come out white. And you say to yourself, well, that sure as heck doesn't look like a potato, because potatoes with their skins on are brown from growing in the ground. But we're going to make them brown by rolling them in cinnamon. So let's see if this is sticky enough. Now sometimes you're going to want to put a little bit of powdered sugar on your hands, because then the dough will not stick to your hands, it'll stick to the powdered sugar. So we're going to take our first piece and see if it's, we're just going to touch it back and forth. Just kind of shape it like a potato. And then in our container here, we have cinnamon. And we're just going to roll it in the cinnamon. Jump over there, little guy. Getting all cinnamon on one side and not on the other. And Irish potato candies. Set it on a plate. When it hardens, it'll look just like a potato. Let's make another one. All right, again, I'm going to put some powdered sugar on my hands. Keep them from sticking. We're making a mess up here. See, like that. And then you're going to take a little bit. We'll make it maybe a tablespoon. And you're just going to roll it very lightly. And you're going to put it in here with some cinnamon. Shake it around. See me shaking it? And as I shake it, the cinnamon sticks to the wet potato. There, that's a little better. Let me go. Do another one. Again, flour your hands with the powdered sugar. Take about a spoonful. Okay. Carefully in your hands and just barely touch it, because it's going to get brown when you shake it and when you roll it. See it rolling? I'm going to put a little more cinnamon. Remember, he gets round like a potato when we roll him in the cinnamon. The cinnamon is supposed to replicate dirt, because potatoes grow in the dirt. They're very soft at this stage, but overnight they will harden up and be a potato. I'm going to put this one back in and get some more cinnamon on him. Okay, baby. All right, and that's how you make Irish potato candies. And it's a simple, easy treat. You don't have to make them just at St. Patty's Day, March 17th. You can make them all year round. They're a good, easy treat, fun for kids to do on a rainy day. And that's it for today on our food segment here at Radio Vision Network, Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar. But do not fear, we shall be right back with another one of the critters, the animals, from our farm at Whitebriar Bed and Breakfast.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Welcome back to Radio Vision Network and Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar. This third segment of our camp is always dedicated to a different creature, a different animal. As you've been watching, we've had our pet goose here who was honking in the background. We've had our rabbit, furry and white. We've had a chicken as a baby chicken, but we've also had that same chicken 6 months later when it grew up to be a rooster, which is a boy chicken. And we've had many other animals here, even our parrot and turtles. But this week, because it's so close to St. Paddy's Day, we're going to talk about a creature who is a myth. A myth means he's not really alive. It's just a story. And the story is about a leprechaun. And a leprechaun is a little person who is teeny like this. These are my leprechauns, okay? They're not real. It's just a folk tale. That means when books were not invented yet and grandmoms and pops had some grandchildren, instead of reading them a story before they went to bed, what they did was they told them a story. And they told them a story that their grandmother and their grandfather had told them decades and decades ago. And to this day, those same stories are told. The stories are about the little people. And as you can see, these are little people. And it's an Irish folklore. Folklore means it's a story. It's not real. It's a story that is told from one generation to the next generation. And it continues for 1,000 years. And that's what we have here. So Ireland has its folklore. You may see a leprechaun that looks like this. And these are sold in the dollar store. And most people think of a leprechaun in this way. But since I have such wonderful dolls here that look just like leprechauns, that's what I call them, leprechauns. The Irish always celebrate the shamrock, which is a three-sided decoration, just like the shamrocks and the four-leaf clovers you find out in the grass. But these are highly decorated. See the holes in them? They're cut very intricately. That's the way the Irish like it. Sometimes you'll go and you'll find some Irish decorations like this one with all the glitter on it. And that's really cool. And in the center is another replication of a leprechaun. Everybody eats Irish food in the month of March because that's when St. Paddy's Day occurs. Mostly they eat a big green cabbage. And why is the cabbage eaten by people in every part of the world, but particularly in Ireland? Well, a cabbage takes all summer and into the winter. Right before frost, you harvest your cabbage. And that same cabbage, because it's sitting out in the sunshine, absorbing all the sunlight for so very long, it has a very long growing season. And because it is out there absorbing all the nutrition, cabbage is very healthy for everybody. I make coleslaw. We made it here at the TV show. We made coleslaw just by chopping up cabbage and putting mayonnaise and vinegar and sugar in it, and it's really good. But to the Irish people, this is what's called a good keeper. That means you can take this cabbage head and put it in the cellar, in the basement, and it'll be fine without any refrigeration for about 6 months. Okay? So the Irish could use this. They served ham and cabbage. Ham is from pigs. Cabbage grows for a long growing season. And potatoes. Potatoes grow underground and they grow for a very long season. And potatoes last a long time too. So in the middle of winter, when you don't have fresh vegetables, you always have cabbage. Cabbage is very high in vitamin C, which will keep you healthy. And the potatoes, corned beef and cabbage and potatoes, or ham and cabbage and potatoes. That's an Irish food. And on Friday night, we'll be serving an Irish dinner just of ham and cabbage, corned beef and cabbage, and we'll be going from there. And that's why the cabbage is so popular. The Irish people have a flag, and I always like to tell the story of the Irish people, two different types of people living on one island in the British Isles. And the Roman Catholic people, who are churchgoers that believe in the Pope, lived on one part of the island, and they were not getting along with the Protestant people who were living on the other side of the island. And so they were always having battles and wars. So what they did about 1960, they decided no more wars. They said, let's make a flag. Get this other paper out of here. Let's make a flag with a white strip in the middle, an orange strip for the Protestant Irish, and a green strip for the Roman Catholic Irish. And this flag is called the tricolor. And today they live peacefully under this flag. They have their own country of Ireland, which is called the Republic of Ireland, and then they also have a section of the British Isles, which is called Northern Ireland. And so the leprechaun came, the tradition of the leprechaun came from all the way across from the Irish Sea, where Ireland is, and our leprechaun is our animal for today here at Radio Vision Network, Camp with Mrs. Whitebriar, and we hope you'll tune in again. We'll see you next time with some more adventures here at Radio Vision Network.